Okay, you have the Indianapolis Colts record prediction. So the Colts, they have a pretty similar teams. They did bring in Matt Ryan, which I think is a minor upgrade, and the rest of the team is pretty solid. They did sign, I believe, Gilmore, and they traded for um, Jones, no, Nakakwe. So definitely a similar team right now. First game versus the Texans, I think this one's definitely a trap. Being the Texans, I think the divisional rival, and the Texans did split with the Titans last season. And Texans definitely a trap game. They do have Davis Mills, but the team isn't overly talented. And I just like the Colts team is better. I'm gonna take the Colts. Then you have Denver versus the Jaguars. Colts haven't been the Jaguars in their house for a very long time, and last year the Jaguars did beat them to prevent them from making the playoffs. And I don't know why Colts just don't win in Jacksonville. They did bring in a lot of pieces like Christian Kirk. They brought in Doug Peterson. They still definitely a trap team, and I think Colts are gonna fall for that. I'm gonna take the Jags. Then you have them versus the Chiefs. Chiefs definitely a tough, but the Chiefs definitely lost Tyreek Hill, but they did bring in MBS and Sky Moore and Juju. And the Chiefs, I think the Jonathan Taylor can have a great game versus the Chiefs' okay defense. And the Chiefs' defense, I think, is going to be the downfall. And I'm going to take the Colts. I think the Colts have a more well-rounded team. You have them versus the Titans. Titans, a divisional rival. Both Titans, they have Derrick Henry. I think the Colts defense is good enough to slow him down. And Ryan Tannehill isn't terrible when Derrick Henry's doing good. And then the Titans defense, I think, is definitely underrated. And Matt Ryan may struggle. And they both very well rounded. First game, I'm going to take the Titans. Then you have them versus the Broncos. Broncos brought in Russell Wilson, and they still have a very talented team with a good defense. Broncos, they bring Gregory. They still have Chubb. They still have Surtain, Simmons. So Broncos definitely a good talented team, and Broncos have home field advantage being on a Thursday nighter, so short week. Then you have them versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars definitely brought in a lot of pieces, but Colts are still more talented. They have a mini bye. I just don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars will sweep the Colts. So I'm gonna take the Colts. And you have them versus the Titans. Titans are a good team. They're coming off a bye, but I don't think the Titans are good enough to sweep the Colts. So take the Colts. Then you have them versus the football team. Football team definitely another trap game. Football team can definitely have a good defensive line, and they have Carson Wentz and Terry McLaurin, so they do have some talent on it. And I think defensive line might cause problems for Matt Ryan, but Colts have the home field advantage, and just gonna be a close game. And I trust Matt Ryan more, so I'm gonna take the Colts. And you have them versus the Patriots. Patriots always tough. They have a good-ish defense, and they have Bill Belichick. And this one, I think, is going to be a close one. It's going to be definitely a close grinder game. I feel like there's going to be a lot of running the ball. Colts are talented on defense. I forgot to mention Darius Leonard, which I think will wreak havoc this year. And it's going to be close, but I'm going to trust Bill Belichick, and the Patriots have a lot of home field advantage. I'm going to take that. Then you have them versus the Raiders. Raiders are another tough team to cover. Raiders have Waller, Adams, and Colts traded away their cornerback, so I think Colts corner, even with Gilmore, is a bit thin, and I don't think they can cover both Adams and Renfro and Waller. And the Raiders have home field advantage. I think this one's going to be carried off Jonathan Taylor's leg, but it's not going to be enough. I'm going to take the Raiders. Okay, so back-to-back weeks, they face another good team in the Eagles. Eagles, definitely a tough team. They have a very good defensive, offensive line. They have skill players. And I just think after back-to-back weeks, I think Jonathan Taylor can run over the Eagles' defense. Defense being their weakness, being linebacker, even though they brought in a ton. I still think Jonathan Taylor's going to carry this game. I'm going to take the Colts. Then you have them versus the Steelers. Steelers are still rebuilding. I think the Colts defense will cause problems for Pickett and the Steelers offense. And the Colts offense, Steelers defense is definitely good, but I still think Colts offense can go through it, so I'm gonna take the Colts. You have them versus the Cowboys. Cowboys, tough team. They have a very tough team. The Cowboys defense, I think, is very underrated. This not slightly underrated. They have Parsons, Diggs, still have Lawrence, which can cause problems. And I think that might cause problems for Matt Ryan and Jonathan Taylor. And the Cowboys' offense isn't terrible. Definitely lost Amari Cooper, but they still have CeeDee Lamb, Schultz, Scallop, Dak Prescott, and a great running back duo. And home field advantage. I think the Cowboys. Then you have them versus the Vikings. Vikings, who tough team. Colts are coming off a bye, but the Vikings still have home field advantage, especially in December up north. So it's going to be cold. So I don't think Matt Ryan will have a good game. It's going to be one off Jonathan Taylor, but the Vikings do have a good defensive players like Barr and is he even on the team? They have Kendricks and they have Hunter, so definitely some talent there on the Vikings. And offensively, they have Justin Jefferson, Thielen, and Kirk Cousins isn't terrible. They have Dalvin Cook. I think with the home field advantage, I'm gonna take the Vikings. Then you have them versus the Chargers. This is a Monday night. The Colts have the home field advantage. Chargers have to travel east. Chargers are another very talented team. They have Herbert, Keenan Allen, and they revamped the defense with Jackson, and Khalil Mack. I still think their middle linebacker core. I still think Chargers need help stopping the run, and that's where Jonathan Taylor comes in. And the Colts defense, I think, is enough to slow down the Chargers. I'm gonna take the Colts. Then you have them versus the Giants. Giants are definitely rebuilding. I think the Colts are more talented in every single way possible. So I'm gonna take the Colts. You have your final game versus the Texans. Texans definitely a trap game for the Colts. They don't want to put another Jags last year and totally miss the playoffs. But I don't think the Texans are talented enough to slow down the Colts, so I'm gonna take Colts. So Indianapolis going 10-7, 14 in the division, 7-1 at home and 3-6 away.